Hello, RWorld, and welcome back to RWorldTalk. We are lucky enough to have Meg Rosenoff from Anbar with us this morning. Anbar is the advertising agency that put together our consumer campaign, which was just released. So very, very timely that we are lucky enough to have Meg here and talk a little bit about exactly how we got to the point that we're at now. So welcome, Meg. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's great to be here. It's always fun to hang out.
It is fun to hang out. Every time I see you, I always have a huge smile on my face.
Yes, me too.
For anybody who's happening to be watching this on video and wondering why in the world I'm wearing a Mariah Carey t-shirt this morning, it is because a couple of weeks ago I was hanging out with one of my friends and he said, "Did you know that it's Leon Day today?" Do you know what Leon Day is?
No.
You've never heard of that? So Noel spelled backwards, Leon, and it was June 25th. On that day, I had no idea. So we were at the halfway point to Christmas. So we were on our way out and we started listening to Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas Is You. So imagine like a pickup truck full of guys going down the street out to a bar and we are literally blaring Mariah Carey Christmas in the truck. And people looked at us like we were totally nuts. They must not know about Leon Day either. So anyways, let's get into it. Tell me about you and your journey as a creative.
Well, thank you again for having me. My name is Meg, and I am just one person on the creative team at Anbar that was a part of this project. I am a creative at an ad agency now, and that's where I love to be. I've been both brand side and agency side, and I love agency side because I love the energy and the uniqueness that every day brings. My background, college-wise, was in journalism, interestingly enough. And I kind of shifted my path, but kept that core of writing and telling human stories. But I love what I do. Every day is an adventure, that's for sure.
So it sounds like we picked the right person to help us out with a consumer campaign where we're trying to tell our story. So tell us what it's like working in advertising. Obviously, you're loving it and you're loving that side of it. But what does a day in the life of Meg look like?
A day in the life of Meg. Well, a day in the life of a creative, we always say, and my creative director always make sure that we remember it's like brain surgery. People always joke that, oh, it's just advertising, it's not brain surgery, but actually it is. Every day we go into the office and we haven't stopped thinking from the night before because it's a nonstop world that you live in of listening and absorbing and input, right? We think that the best input of film, theater, music, art history creates the best output. So that's the world I live in. And so I'm constantly consuming, whether it's screen time or book time or just watching old movies or old interviews of directors. I love to just absorb and be a sponge.
Absorb all the stories that you can. Right?
Yes. And so every day we go in and we think about how do we get to the center of someone's brain? That is called the insular cortex. And that's something we always think about. And that is the part of your brain that feels. That's the part of your brain that ignores logic. It doesn't understand language. It only understands emotion.
So that's where suspension of disbelief comes from?
Yes, the insular cortex is the brain surgery that creatives do every day. It's the part of you that we want to connect with. It's the part of you that great ads and great creative, it makes you feel something. And that's what made you guys a great client, is because we were able to tap into that insular cortex with all the work that we did together.
You guys were definitely inside our brains, and I think it shows in this commercial. You figured exactly what we were looking for, and like you really gave it to us. Tell us a couple of ways that realtors or brokerages can use an advertising agency to increase their business. Obviously, we have to figure out what our buyers want, what our sellers want. It sounds like to us maybe that is a little bit of an easier task because we can ask very basic questions on exactly what somebody's looking for. But sometimes they don't even know what they're looking for. So I think that we sometimes get into their heads a little bit as well, show them a few houses, figure out what they're starting to like. And a lot of times the wish list that they gave us is not what we're seeing as we're walking through a home. So I think we need to get into that insular cortex a little bit, but how could we as realtors be using an advertising agency, not as an association, but as an individual realtor in order to help them increase their business?
It's funny, Chris, because what we do is actually quite similar, right? We are method actors in a way, because every day both you and I are going into this new family and we are putting ourselves in it. We're putting ourselves in that world. Especially when writing this campaign, I thought about that a lot, right? Like, what is the empty nester feeling? What is the realtor feeling? So that's what ad agencies are great at, right? We have so many tools and specialties within an agency. We have public relations that helps you keep that message consistent no matter what. We have a media team, which you can create the best work ever, but if no one ever sees it, it doesn't matter.
You guys do incredible at those two things.
Yes, that's what media does with creative, right? That's how we work together. It's the symbiosis of great work and great placement. Our account service team is a absolute powerhouse in just connecting with the client. Their job is to protect the client at all costs and make sure that your goal never fades from the work. And so all those combined together, along with things like social media, production, even the people who are making sure we all get paid. That's what makes an ad agency so vibrant, so nonstop go, 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 but so valuable for anyone in the realty field.
Yeah, I totally agree. When you guys first pitched us this third commercial, Box of Memories, I remember we were sitting in a suite up at Florida Realtors midwinter meetings, and your team came in and you guys told us about this, and like our entire executive team is sitting around this table and everybody got teary-eyed just hearing the concept. So you certainly hit the nail on the head there. And then we finally see this end result commercial, and we gave a little sneak peek to all of our chairs and vice chairs. We just had a meeting not too long ago, and we gave them a sneak peek of the commercial, and I'm looking across the room because I'm sitting up in the front of the room looking in this sea of people. And you could see people getting teary-eyed. And I'm like, this is exactly what I thought it was going to be like, but I couldn't visualize it as well as what had actually come out in the as an end result on camera.
Yes, we made people cry.
Yeah, you made people cry. I got to the back of the room and one of our affiliate members, her name's Tammy, and she had recently become an empty nester. Like literally her kids just a couple of months ago had left the house, and she's like, this hit me so hard because the notches on the wall are in the garage of the house that I just sold.
Exactly.
And so like for her, it really, really resonated. And I think this commercial is really going to be a huge, huge success. So thank you guys for putting that together and hitting that insular cortex.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly what our goal was. That is amazing to hear.
Okay. So speaking about that and how you guys actually came up with the concept, we gave you a task and you guys really, really knocked it out of the park. So like walk me through the typical Anbar creative team brainstorm. When you guys are tasked with a project like the Only a Realtor campaign, what does that look like when you guys are sitting in the room trying to come up with what it is that we tell you what we want, but we didn't know that we needed a box of memories. We didn't know that we needed, all the things that you gave us. The only thing that we knew is that we wanted to resonate with our empty nesters because it's a large population of people that are buying homes in Florida, specifically in South Florida. So how did you come up with this concept? I mean, what is that team brainstorm?
It's probably a lot like when one of your clients says, I don't know, I need something new, but I don't know what I'm looking for exactly. Okay. Yeah, it's probably a similar feeling.
Okay.
Something I personally hate about like stereotypes of creatives and advertising is that everyone thinks, oh, we just throw some colorful sticky notes on a board and we draw pictures and we just come up with an idea.
Okay.
And that's not true at all. Creatives are so nerdy. We spend so much time researching and learning and me personally listening. I just like to, like I said, be a method actor. I like to be open. You have to, as a creative, be open to the world. You have to be open to experiences that aren't your own. I don't have adult children moving out of a house, but at the time that I was writing that script, I did, right? I had to be that person in that world to capture that emotion.
Okay.
The best way to describe that process is what we call head, heart, change. There are 3 kind of things on a checklist that if we don't have those things in a concept, it'll fail. And we won't even present it to a client. It has to be intuitive. It has to make sense in your head. which seems simple, but we've all seen pieces of art that you're like, I don't get it.
But then your friend standing next to you could totally understand, and they've got this wave of emotion. I'm like, you're looking at a blue box. What are you, why are you crying?
It has to be intuitive. It has to be something that universally every human can relate to that truth. You said you remember the notches on the wall in your own home. We all have that memory in some way or another. We all had that puppy or that cat or that gerbil that maybe destroyed part of your house and your dad got really mad at you.
Right.
These are all things that we wove into the concept to give us that universal, intuitive head moment. Right. The heart is also what you mentioned with the tears. People are like, I love it. I'm crying. I love it. But why do you love it? You love it because you see yourself in it. You see your mom in it. You see your best friend in it. That's why some of the most famous TV shows have been popular. Friends, Seinfeld, because you saw your own life in that show.
It's relatable.
Exactly.
Right.
And so that's the heart. And then change, we always talk about we want to change someone's life for the better. So does realtors. Realtors aren't just looking to kind of be in and out in someone's life in a year or two. Right. You want to have that lasting relationship. And that was a huge point of inspiration for this concept as well, because what we were hoping to hint at was that realtor had been with that family since they bought that house 20 years ago, when the kids weren't even born yet. And she's helping them buy their next house that they're moving into.
Yeah, so, I think people forget that this is a relationship business.
Yes.
You absolutely have a relationship with these people throughout a transaction. Right. And then if you're doing it right, you keep that relationship going through decades of, running your business. Yeah.
And that is the idea of changing someone's life. If yes, you can change someone's life for an instant, but to change someone's life for years and decades creates this, the fancy word for it is like brand affinity, right? Where your brand just becomes a part of that person's world and soul. But the not fancy word for it is just connection.
Okay. Yeah. Like people connect with Jordan sneakers.
Yeah, absolutely. And the sneakers are cool, but you love the sneakers because of what Michael Jordan represents and what you could accomplish if you had a little bit of Michael Jordan on your feet.
Right. Yeah, totally. Wow. So as far as the brainstorming is concerned, you guys, how big of a team is sitting in that room trying to come up with these concepts?
Oh gosh, it changes for every project, right? Sometimes, usually the best ideas come out when it's like 2 or 3 people that are worn haggard from thinking for days on end, and there's like empty pizza boxes, and that stereotype is true. There's like snacks and Red Bull cans crushed, and sometimes it's just 2 people. We usually try to start a little bigger and then hone in as the idea gets closer, because for every one idea that gets produced, like our beautiful spot we did together, there's 200 ideas in what we call the graveyard that never made it to the client, that you guys didn't even see. And then you remember how many we pitched you, and then
I think it was like 5 just for this last
and those went to the graveyard too.
Yeah.
Sometimes things get resurrected, but a big part of a creative's life is failure. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean it in like a failing for good way. Right. There's so many times, even just in one day, that I have moments of failure, moments of rejection. A creative's life is rejection. My creative director always tells us that when I go into his office.
So you really are like actors.
Yes.
Yeah.
I go in his office and I'm just crushed because something's happened. Your ideas changed because your ideas are like your babies, right? And he's like, your life is rejection. And so it's taking that moment of quote unquote failure and using it to learn and to get better and to fail for good.
Right. Yeah, when you were talking about the method acting and how you guys really have to like put yourselves in that place, because you don't have children that have moved out of the home, but you have to basically put yourself in the shoes of that person. Like Robin Williams had to become Mrs. Doubtfire. Like that could not have been easy. You know what I mean? You really have to like put yourself in the shoes of like, this middle-aged man had to become an old nanny, old British nanny, right?
There's no way one advertising creative, can be all these things in the world that matter to all these people. So that's what makes great creatives is, like you said, just being able to put yourself in that world and be it.
I love the fact that with the surge of artificial intelligence and ChatGPT and all these kinds of things that, we just had TechCon not too long ago, and people, they're saying, well, you could use ChatGPT to write up the script and it'll tell you, what kind of little things you could put in there. It's going to be so generic and basic, and you're not going to be pulling at people's heartstrings. It's so awesome to know that people are still valid as far as being able to bring emotion to the table, bring emotion on screen, bring emotion to the storyline, really taking a deep dive. Like you said, you're sitting up at night doing all this research, and then you come in the following morning, all the pizza boxes are still there, and you're like, still trying to go through all these different stories to figure out what works, and you're pitching it to the team over and over and over and over again. And sometimes those things are going to end up in the graveyard, like you said.
Yep.
And it could have been a fantastic idea, but maybe that idea is going to be better fit somewhere else a year from now when it pops back into your head and you go, I thought about this when I was working on Box of Memories, but it fits way better in this, scenario. So it's great. And creatives are obviously a huge resource for us, especially in the advertising world. Screw AI.
No, it's like every creative is sitting around, or really everyone at our agency is like, oh my gosh, like what, it's changing the whole landscape.
Right.
And writers especially are like, how do I add value beyond AI? And I think you put it really beautifully, which is the emotion that AI can never capture. The ability to take a human truth that could be something funny, something silly, or something really scary almost.
Right.
AI can never capture that like a human can.
Yeah, you can't emulate the human emotion using technology. It's not going to happen. Okay, so what was let's talk about the inspiration for our new commercial, which is Box of Memories. Everybody's seeing it now. So talk about that creative process that you went through and like what the inspiration was that helped you come up with those ideas.
So this campaign has always been about reinforcing the essential role of a realtor. It's always been about this idea of just because you can doesn't mean you should. I don't know if you remember that. That was from a couple years ago. That was on our original creative brief that our creative director wrote that kind of became that guiding light of it can be silly, right? Just because you can paint your own house with a paintbrush doesn't mean you should.
Right.
Just because you could buy a house online by yourself with a humanless app doesn't mean you should.
Right.
And so that still stayed as our main guiding light as we concepted this idea. Box of Memories, for me, came from the inspiration of moving a lot as a kid. I moved around a lot, and you can pack all your boxes and you can have the moving truck full of stuff, but it's the stuff you can't take with you that means the most. And that's the thing we wanted to capture here, is that a realtor understands that. A realtor knows that it's not just about a transaction. It's not just about buying and selling. And while this spot focused on selling and the last two focused on buying, it was the idea of what you can't take with you.
Right.
And that's so emotional. Like you brought up everyone crying and you personally remembering that. You have a puppy and that feeling of, I want to love and take this baseboard with me that my puppy chewed, even though in the moment you were so frustrated.
Right.
The notches on the wall is a human truth that we all know, whether you've done it for your own kids, your parents did it for you. We all know that emotion and that feeling. And so those simple, beautiful visuals of seeing those things with the story just simply being played over that video made it really impactful and powerful.
One cool thing, and I don't know if this is going to cause any trouble or not, might have to edit this part out. So we showed up on set that day, and you were actually the one that was making the little board with the notches on the wall and the kids' names and the dates and all that kind of stuff. So I actually used to do that. We spoke about this on set that day.
Art department.
And an art department. And I've told you guys this on the podcast several times, but this is the industry that I used to be in. And it was funny when I showed up that day and you're like, drawing all the names and putting the notches on. I think you did it like 3 times, which is so funny because that's
like
art
4 or 5.
department. Yeah. It doesn't matter how many times you do it. The director's going to look at it and say, why don't you try one more time? It's like, for what? Like it looks real to me. But it was actually our creative director, Anthony Acevedo. It's his children's names that are on that.
I'm
so it's
so
like,
glad
it's
you
so
brought that
cool.
up.
They're immortalized in this commercial. It's just, I love it because for us here at the association, every time I see that now, I'm going to remember that it's like, oh, this is my buddy's kids that are like on that thing, and we're seeing it on TV, which is, it's a cool thing for anybody who's listening. Now that's Anthony Acevedo's kids that are on those notches. So that's really
Carter
cool.
and Sophia grew up very fast that day.
Oh, they did. Oh, yeah. They're taller than me now.
Yes. What's funny is I actually have that board in my office now.
Do you really?
Something for me personally, I love a souvenir from every shoot that I do.
Okay.
And that was my souvenir from that shoot because it caused me so much pain.
Right.
I had to do 5 of them. It was my creative director, Christian will laugh when he listens to this, who was like, it's not right, start over. And then Andy McIntyre, the director with Indie Atlantic, came over. He's like, it's not right, start over. And I think that's also a great story about what I do. It's, yes, I'm a writer, but I'm a creative. And a creative means doing anything at any moment without questions.
Yep.
And so we needed someone to make it perfect. And I volunteered, which I don't regret, but in the moment I did. And it just goes to show that the vision is in our heads and you will stop at nothing. You almost get like voracious, like trying to make sure that the idea in your head comes to life exactly as how you see it.
I remember one time when I working in our department, we were doing a commercial. This was up in Toronto. We were doing a commercial, and our art director wanted me to like take poster board and make like these kids' summer camp posters. So I'm like, in the worst handwriting I could possibly do.
With
like
your wrong hand, your left hand.
100%. Like a 6-year-old, like trying to paint this thing and make it look like a kid did it. And I looked back at it, I'm like, this totally looks like a kid made this thing. But then I show it to them and they're like, we're gonna need to redo that a few times because that doesn't look right. I'm like, what doesn't look right about this? It doesn't make sense to me. But the creative in their head was looking at this saying, this isn't exactly what I'm visioning. So you got to change it until you get it right.
And so much of my job is protecting my client's vision as well, right? So it's what's in my head, but it's also what's in my client's head.
Right.
And so you then, as just a production person, were like, why does this guy care so much?
Yeah.
But he's probably in his head hearing his Chris going, it better be right, it better be perfect, you know? So there's so many things at play, and so much of my job, I always say I'm in the service industry. You know, I work for you, and my job is to capture your idea and your vision and make it even better.
The way you dreamt it up is exactly how it needs to portray on TV. Yeah. Okay. So how does the Ambar team make this all come to life? We started out with, here's the basically it wasn't even a concept. You guys came up with the concept. All we did was say, we're trying to get our story across. This is what our story is. Mm-hmm. You guys took that and went through the whole vision process, the creative process. How did this all come to life?
Well, gosh, there's so many moving parts and people involved.
A lot of people
There's
involved.
so many people involved. And anytime I have a new intern or a new team member on set, they're just in awe of how long, and you know this, it takes for 30 seconds, right?
It's crazy.
We're spending 40, 50, 70 hours just preparing for the shoot.
Right.
And then before that, it's hundreds of hours strategizing, coming up with the idea, writing. I probably wrote 100 scripts. My other writing partner, Jack, wrote just as many. Feedback, back and forth, scripts, crumpling up paper, throwing it down, tears, pain. And then you get this beautiful idea. And then it's time, okay, so this idea, we have it. Now we need to make it real. So we cast, and we have to think about, what does this person look like? What do they sound like? And people would be so surprised to know how long we spend analyzing every detail. Music, so important with this spot. What people might not know is that was not the original music that we had chosen for this spot. We originally thought, it's acoustic guitar, it's light and it's airy. But then once we dropped that music into the footage, it didn't feel quite right.
Right.
And that's, like I was saying, a little moment of failure, right? Where me personally, I'm like, I messed up. It's not right. But then I look at it like failing for good. Okay, Absolutely. It's not right. Why is it not right? Oh, you know what? Strings, violin. That's, if we need to tap into more emotion, we need violins. And so that was a learning moment.
Is that the way to do it?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna take that to heart. And next time when I'm showing a property and I'm like, this is definitely the one.
Strings.
I'm just gonna start like playing violin as they walk through the house.
Bach was really onto something.
Awesome. Okay, so tell us a little bit more about the rest of that process. So, I mean, now just to get that 30 seconds, not only do you have to come up with all that creative, but then we had to find the right house. We had to find the house that's got the right railing. You've got to find the house that, everything has to fit perfectly in order to get that emotion to come across.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because something we talked about a lot with our first 2 spots was how essential the house was in the story. We've always seen the house as a character in the story. And that's not as much true with other accounts and other clients. But obviously for realtors, the house it's everything.
Yeah.
And so a really cool nugget, if you watch the spots again after this, which I hope you do, is that the first 2 spots open on a door. Just a simple front door, because there's so much emotion tied to that door. When kids get home from school, you want to see your front door so bad. You know, you want to run in. Getting home from vacation, oh, thank goodness you open the door. Kids leaving for college, you take a picture in front of the front door. Prom pictures in front of the front door. And so
I was a latchkey kid. I get it. And there's like country songs about the keys under the mat. Come on in, kind of thing. It's
there's something about that front door. And so if you watch the first 2 spots, we open on the front door as if it was a character, as if it's a person, talent. And this spot, we did the same idea, but a little differently. We opened in a home, and we just showed the notches on the wall by itself before a human hand even comes in.
Right.
Because that shows the importance of the home in this story. There is life and breath and soul in that home, and a realtor knows that better than anyone else.
Right.
And so that was our job, is to interpret that visually.
And so some of those, some of the camera angles and things that you did, we don't even see the house. You don't even see a place where furniture might even be in that home. But you guys did it so perfectly that right from the get-go, you already have a feeling like the house is empty.
Yeah. And there's something about an empty house that makes you both mournful and hopeful, right? There's that element of what was there, but it's really more of the what will be. Right. And so we never showed just the open house without some kind of soul or life in it. And that was really important to us, to make sure that the house felt full of life, even though it was empty.
It feels full of life.
Yes.
You could feel that house is full of memories. But then at the same time, you also have this sense of new beginning.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
And that's, I think, what a realtor is constantly trying to, help their clients through as well. Because what we've learned with working with you guys over the past couple of years is that, like I mentioned earlier, it's not about the transaction. So much of what you do is the emotional connection. You understand their personal experience. You understand how exciting it is, but also scary.
Right.
And so much of what you do is coaching and just being there and being a shoulder to both cry on and lean on and help you get up and change the light bulb. And we love that about what you do. That's why I bring it back to Head, Heart, Change. You guys are a perfect client for that. So
love it.
It's a great partnership.
So we talked about how the first 2 commercials, we were focusing on the front door, and now this one we're inside the home. But let's get a little bit deeper into how this concept was different from the first 2 commercials, and you can elaborate on the first 2 for anybody who hasn't seen them yet, which I don't imagine is any one of our realtors or anybody who lives in South Florida. I think everybody's seen this thing. We've had 45 million impressions and over 18 million views of this commercial, or the first 2 commercials, which is just off the charts. And I know that you guys really hit it out of the park, and all of the goals that you had set for yourselves were all smashed. So, I mean, our click-through rate even, and the fact that people are watching the video from start to finish. Yeah. It's not like they're, clicking off. They're right there, right until the bitter end, which is awesome.
Yeah, we are so proud of this concept because the first 2 spots focuses on young families, growing families, families where grandma's moving in. And this spot is about the next chapter in your life. This is about the empty nester. And my parents are empty nesters. So for me personally, as a writer, like I mentioned, I take so much inspiration from my own life and what I watch and observe. And I watched my parents go through this. Right. And so that was a big point of inspiration for me when talking about and imagining the life of an empty nester. And that's what makes this spot different, is the selling aspect, the empty nester aspect, talking to a different audience than we did last time, talking to an audience that it's the idea of the kids aren't the only ones leaving the nest. You can too. And a realtor can be there for you in that part of your life as well. And really, they should be.
Absolutely. So how can realtors become better storytellers? And why is that important? I know why, but I'd like to hear it from you because you guys are the creative ones. So tell us what we need to know.
Realtors do so much of your own marketing, right? You do so much of your own social media, which everyone's very good at, by the way. Okay. Your own storytelling, like you're saying, but in so many different ways, in the way that you speak about a home, and the way that you speak about your clients, and the way that you sell. Storytelling for me has always been about learning, right? It's always been about, I think my background in journalism comes through when I'm telling stories. It comes through in the sense that I'm really just listening. And that's one of Ann Barr's core values that I love about our company, is that listen and care is at the core of what we do. And I think that's at the core of storytelling as well.
And it also should be at the core of what realtors are doing,
Yes.
because the more that you listen to the people that you're working with, the better an understanding you have of exactly what they're looking
Yes.
for, because sometimes they don't know how to emulate exactly what it is that they even want. So we have to do more listening to find out what it is
Yes.
that they're trying to tell us that they don't know that they're trying to tell.
That is something, that's absolutely what I would advise is just listen. You have to be open. You have to be open to being vulnerable. You have to be open to someone else's experience. You have to be open to being humble and saying, I don't understand what you're going through, but I want to learn.
Okay.
And so once you're able to do that and to be open and vulnerable and real and human and not afraid of failure and not afraid of embarrassment, which is hard.
Yeah, it's very hard.
It's very hard, but that is where the best storytelling comes through. It's someone who's not afraid to embarrass themselves, not afraid to talk about something that might make them uncomfortable.
Right.
Because even just talking about, things we love, things that really matter to us can be scary for a lot of people.
Right.
And so great writers and great storytellers aren't afraid. And I think being fearless and being open and listening, it helps you write the best story, because what you're doing is you're capturing that human truth. And that's what ties us all together.
The human truth. So make sure that you be yourself.
Be yourself. Be real. People can tell the greatest books you've ever read. I guarantee you love them because you felt yourself in it. There was a human truth in it.
Right.
That even if you couldn't put your finger on it, you're like, this makes
there.
me feel good.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I know you are incredibly busy, and I thank you so much for coming all the way down here just to do this podcast. But we'll spend some more time after we're wrapped up here. But I've got one last question for you. Totally off topic. We ask this of every one of our guests. Tell us about a Florida gem that you absolutely love. I know that you're from the Orlando area, so we go up there a couple times a year. If there's something up in Orlando that we absolutely must check out when we're up there in August for our summer convention, let's hear about it.
Well, it's funny you ask. I actually last weekend was at a natural springs. So we have in Central Florida a ton of these natural, clear, freshwater springs that I know you've heard about. That's where the manatees go in the winter when they get cold. They're not there right now. Bummer. But there are these beautiful natural springs that kind of gives you that hint into old Florida, that taste of what Florida looked like before all us humans arrived. And they are just amazing. The water is cool. It's always about like 70 degrees.
Oh,
and
that's nice.
It's fun. Bring a picnic, get an inner tube at Walmart.
Okay.
And enjoy the day.
Do you have a favorite one?
The one that's closest to my house that is just stunning is Rock Springs in Kelly Park. It's in Apopka, so it's like 30 minutes from Central Orlando.
Okay, Apopka. We can go and visit our president, Mr. Mike McGraw, up there. Okay, well, awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you guys all enjoyed this, and we will see you next Friday on RWorldTalk.
Bye, guys.